Novak Djokovic is the GOAT of tennis, and if it was ever in doubt, it no longer is. I'll tell you why. After missing out on Indian Wells and Miami, Novak had a terrible start to the clay season. He got dumped early at Monte Carlo, and it was the same story at Banja Luka. Due to lingering elbow concerns, Djokovic pulled out of the Madrid Masters and was defeated by Holger Rune in Rome, where he was trying to defend his title. As a result, he lost his number one spot to Carlos Alcaraz, and even Daniil Medvedev overtook him. A 5-3 start to the clay court season was the last thing the Novak faithful wanted to see. Many people asked questions, myself included, but like he has always done, Novak reminded everyone that he is the GOAT of tennis, and here's how he did it. Djokovic entered the French Open as the third seed. However, he had no problems breezing to the quarterfinals without dropping a set. He met Alexander Kovacevic, Martin Fucsovics, Davidovich Fokina, and Juan Pablo Varillas en route to the quarters. To be fair, it was straightforward for the Serbian, but everything changed in the quarterfinals. An in-form Karen Khachanov took the opening set off Djokovic and pushed him to a tiebreak in the second set. Things were starting to get interesting, but Novak went up a gear and sealed the game in 4 sets. In doing so, he set up the long-awaited clash with Carlos Alcaraz at the semi-finals. We had waited over a year for this matchup, and it didn't fail to deliver. Interestingly, many pundits favored Alcaraz, and only a few of us knew that we couldn't count Novak out or really bet against him no matter what. The temperature in Paris was around 87 degrees, which made the match day the hottest of the competition. Going into the match, Carlos had youth, flair, and the power. Novak had experience on his side. It was a brutal baseline battle for 2 sets until Alcaraz folded up. Now here's the thing, Carlitos played back-to-back 5-setters and needed almost 24 hours on the court en route to his US Open victory. And although he did cramp against Sinner at Miami this year, many fans still expected him to go the distance physically. But when you're playing Novak, it's totally different. How is a 36-year-old guy better conditioned physically than players almost half his age? There's a feeling that Carlos's nerves got the better of him as he looked tense for large spells in the game, but it was simply due to Novak, who outclassed Alcaraz in many ways. We all know that the forehand is Carlos' stronger wing by a stretch. It took a gutsy tactical effort from Novak to play more frequently to his forehand. The Serbian avoided too many backhand cross-courts early on and made Alcaraz work hard for every single point. Novak matched Carlos' power with forehands averaging 81 miles per hour. His ground strokes were more solid than ever, and he closed in on the net 13 times in the first set alone. On the other hand, when on the defense, Novak was relentless, and Alcaraz couldn't win the pressure points when it mattered. Leveled at 1 set apiece, Carlos began to cramp early in the third set, and everything changed. The third and fourth sets were a shadow of the high-level play seen in the first 2 sets, and it was the ultimate anti-climax for neutrals looking forward to an epic 5-setter. 6-3, 5-7, 6-1, 6-1 was the score, and Novak had entered his 34th major final in 70 majors competed. The stage for the final was set. An expectant crowd, including the likes of NFL legend Tom Brady, who sat in Novak Djokovic's box, renowned English actor Hugh Grant, and football stars Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Kylian Mbappe, and Olivier Giroud. Even the former world heavyweight boxing champion Mike Tyson was present. On the brink of history, Djokovic faced Casper Ruud in the final and attempted to spoil the party, and boy did he come close in the first set. Up an early break, Ruud quickly raced to a 4-1 lead as the 4th seed employed a variety of ground strokes, looping balls alternating with power strokes to put Novak off balance, and it worked initially until Novak managed to find his rhythm as the set wore on. The set went into a tiebreak, and Novak raised his level to demolish Ruud, who simply couldn't finish off what he started. The tiebreak ended 7-1 thanks to a clutch performance by Djokovic. Casper fought valiantly in the next 2 sets, but by then it was already clear that Novak would be champion. And after 3 hours and 13 minutes, history was recreated. Novak's 52 winners to Ruud's 31 and an 80% point win after his first serve were enough to seal the deal and take Novak's head-to-head to 5-0 against Ruud, who still hasn't been able to take a set off Djokovic. The Norwegian has reached the finals in 3 of the last 5 Grand Slam tournaments, but he was unable to find a way through Novak as the Serb won 7-6, 6-3, 7-5. Throughout the tournament, Djokovic played 6 tiebreaks and a total of 55 points, and guess how many unforced errors he made? 0. Novak won 42 out of those points and clinched all of the tiebreaks. Clutch doesn't come better than what we've seen from the Joker. And really, you just have to take a look at the numbers to see why Djokovic is from a different planet. 293 wins and only 5 losses when Novak wins the first set in a major. 80-4 win record after claiming the first set at Roland Garros. and winning 35 of those in a row. In fact, his last loss after winning the first set in a French Open match came in his 2015 final loss to Stan Wawrinka. Novak is the oldest Roland Garros champion in history, eclipsing Nadal at the age of 36 years and 20 days. He is also the first man to win all 4 Grand Slam major events at least 3 times. Novak has won 6 out of the last 8 majors he has competed in. He continues to extend his record of big titles to 67 compared to Nadal's 59 and Federer's 54. 11 slams after turning 30 compared to Rafa's 8 and Federer's 4. Age never meant anything to the Joker. With 94 ATP titles in the bag, I'm pretty sure that one of Novak's long-term goals would be to break the all-time record for most ATP singles titles, held by Jimmy Connors at 109. A record extending 388 weeks at the top of the rankings, and by September, we might be talking about 400 weeks. The 36-year-old is halfway to completing the calendar Grand Slam, which is something no man has done since Rod Laver in 1969. He came agonizingly close in 2021, and it feels possible again. That would be the ultimate icing on the cake. But even if Novak doesn't pull it off, his legacy is set in stone. When asked about being the greatest tennis player of all time, Novak maintained a humble stand and said that although he has all the records to be considered the greatest, he doesn't want to disrespect the achievements of great champions of the different eras.
Thank you. I mean, I don't want to say that I am the greatest because I feel I've said it before, it's disrespectful towards all the great champions in different eras of our sport that was played in a completely different way than it is played today.
He went further to acknowledge their contributions and the impact of his rivalry with Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal. But at this point, we could very well say that Novak is now only competing with himself. Interestingly, Nadal was classy and quick enough to acknowledge the moment and congratulate Novak. Federer took a few days longer, which initially led to speculations and conspiracy theories, but when he showed up, it was equally classy. Djokovic now stands alone with 23 Grand Slam titles. Only Serena Williams on the women's side has the same number, while Margaret Court has 1 more. To think of everything that Novak Djokovic has gone through to achieve this feat is mind-boggling. Even at the just concluded French Open, he was booed repeatedly when he played Alcaraz, who started to struggle with cramps. Yet he overcame the crowd by doing just one thing: winning. For those who want to bring up the cramp argument for Carlos Alcaraz's loss to Novak, remember that cramps are not injuries. If you doubt me, check the ATP rulebook. Cramps have to do with physical conditioning, and that's not on Novak. So it is unfair for anyone to take credit away from the Serbian's win. If there is a player who appreciates players when they make good shots and is gracious in defeat and could spend half of the post-match interview praising his opponent, it is Djokovic. Ban him, deport him, do whatever you wish. Novak Djokovic can withstand anything mentally, and that's why many fans consider him the greatest player of all time. He might not have the silky touch of Federer or the enormous spin and physicality of Nadal, but this guy has solutions to everything, and that is truly what defines greatness. Nole was ready to sacrifice his career and material success because he had to stand by his principles, and he didn't care if he received any hate. What mattered most to him was being true to himself. When asked about retirement, Novak reiterated that he was eager to create more history and wasn't thinking of calling it a day on his career. Which brings us to another thing about the man. After 23 slams, Novak Djokovic is hungrier than ever, and it's this trait that has driven him to tennis immortality. And when you look at other grades, it brings Novak and the other members of the Big Three's achievements into perspective. McEnroe never won a major after 25. Bjorn Borg quit at 25. Sampras quit in his early 30s. Roger and Rafa kept going into their late 30s until their bodies couldn't take it anymore. And here we have Novak, who looks like he still has a lot of juice in him. He was born for this. In my opinion, Novak is likely to end up with anywhere between 25 and 30 slams. Let's say he still has 2 Wimbledons, 2 Australian Opens, and maybe 1 more French Open and a US Open. What are your thoughts on that though? You may have an unwavering opinion on Novak, either in his favour or not, but if there's any conclusion we can make from what he's just done, it is that he deserves to be called the GOAT of tennis, statistically and otherwise. Even while the great Roger Federer was still playing, Novak was never scared of him because of a particular reason. Find out in this next video.